G'day guys, Josh here. Hope you guys are having a great day today and welcome to episode 4 of Financial Fruits with me, okay? And maybe some other people in the future, okay? But anyways, today we're going to discuss the growth assets. Well, people call them aggressive assets or whatever it is, which is property. Well, we're going to discuss property today. This is going to be the deep dive into it. Which is going to be domestic equities, which we discussed with international equities as well. And those are going to be, this is part 1 of this as well. So main reason why we're going to discuss property by itself, because the growth assets, which you guys are going to realize are very, very more open. Like, we got into fixed interests last YouTube video, and I was like, maybe I should have done this in its own video, because cash is not that big. Fixed interest, not that big. But property, domestic equities, and stuff like that is where everything starts to unpack, and essentially you got a lot more in there than a quick 10-minute video or anything like that as well. Okay, so let's just go to property. So property, there are 3 types of property. Okay, a lot of you may be thinking property, just rent a house out, that's it, that's property, right? Nah, that ain't property. That is a part of it, but it ain't property. So let's talk about the first one, residential property. Okay, since everyone's familiar with it. Okay, you got a house, let's say you got a friend, house is empty, or you got furnishing in and stuff like that. Friend wants to move in, they'll pay you $200, and let's just say water rates or whatever, water rates, electricity, they'll pay that. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much residential property. Okay, is that you lend instead of renting it to a friend or anything like that. That is how residential property works. So with residential property as well, it can be either direct or indirect. Now you may ask, how can it be indirect? Well, indirect means that you are investing. You're investing in a share. Okay, this goes back to domestic equities or international equities. You're investing in a share of a company that does this. Okay, so they own and operate the property for you. Okay, like a property manager. You guys may have some as well. In Australia, there's like Lend-Lease, Lend-Lease, Stockless, stuff like that. They do this sort of stuff. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. So that's how you can indirectly invest in property. Directly, obviously, is you own the property, okay? And then you rent it to a mate. Okay? So that's residential property, direct and indirect. Now you may be thinking, hey, does this apply to all other types of property? Yes, okay? Sometimes your property exposure is not going to be you owning that power pole at the end of the street or that bus stop on the side of the road. Is you going to be actually owning it indirectly. Next up is commercial property. And now you'd be like, oh, commercial property. You can own this direct, which you require a lot of money, just an FYI, because the commercial properties aren't cheap. Warehouses can cost up to $1 million and stuff like that. Or you can own it indirectly, where you can own a property company share that specializes in commercial property. So for example, if everyone in Australia know what Woolworths, Coles, what else? Target in America, Walmart, etc. You can own those. And those sort of companies, they generally have their own listed property trust. Because what these companies do is they separate the property that they rent / own from the actual company. Now you'd be like, why do they do that? Is that if the company gets sued, the property that they own and rent from could not be touched. Okay? Because they're separate companies. And that's why they keep them separate. So the business, anything that happens to the business can't affect the property that they're renting and owning. Because if that gets affected, then property is, not very liquid, but we'll get into that later. So you can't sell, half a property or anything like that. Alternatively, you can own it direct. So you can own a warehouse, shopping center. What other commercial property? Workshop, mechanic shop, yoga studio. You just think of anything that you can run a business out of, that you need to run a business out of, offices, office space. There's few companies that specialize in that. Just think on top of your head, any commercial outlet, that's commercial property. That's pretty much it. And also you can rent that to a business. Now with this as well, the business itself can sublease it. Let's go back up here. You can also sublease here as well. You can sublease residential property. We can rent a room out. You're renting it, but you can rent a room out to another mate. So that's, commercial property. Now, this is the next one. infrastructure. Now you'd be like, hey, isn't infrastructure commercial property? Infrastructure is a bit different because infrastructure is like pipes, so water pipelines, roads, transport systems like trains. We could keep going on and on and on and on. Dams, power generation, logistics. That's also infrastructure as well. Generally, you can go back to Australian equities, but it's generally, trucks and stuff like that. Power lines. What else? You see how this is going, okay? Anything that is used to transport one good to another area is generally an infrastructure. Now, can you own these directly? Yes, you can own these directly, but they are expensive, and you can own it indirectly. Now, the main reason why this is different is that with a lot of this infrastructure, the government sets the price. Okay, and it is highly regulated. So in this area, this is more market driven. So, driven by the market, on how expensive you can make things. Here, it is not market driven. It is not very market driven, okay? It is very controlled. For example, for water pipelines, like, cost to pump water, government heavily regulates water, okay? You find your local water act and you see how much the government controls water because everyone needs water to live, and they don't want a business to control it because, you've seen the Martin Shkreli with the insulin prices. They don't want that sort of scenario occurring with water. That's the worst thing that they want to happen. So you can see here that there's mainly 3 types of properties. Let me just put direct and indirect here as well. And generally, those are the 3 common types of property. Now, this is the next part, okay? Agriculture business, okay? This actually falls under part of commercial property, but generally it's like farms and stuff like that, okay? Farms, solar panels, arrays, because they're considered farms as well, wind farms. I can tell you right now, like, those aren't really strong, but it's generally like the farms and stuff that, where a person will, buy buy acres of land, and let's say they grow, this falls under commercial property as well. Let's say they grow grapes and then sell it, and basically they don't rent, they either buy it or keep the property, and then they just grow stuff on it to get a higher amount. They may have a property there as well, have a residential property to house their workers, but that's essentially what they are doing. Or they even rent it to a company that does that, so they can collect the rent. Okay, so you can see here with property, we've gone through 8 minutes of this video, okay, and you can see how complex it already is. With some of these properties as well, you may have a mortgage against it as well. This is not property, but just be aware of it. You can have a mortgage against it. Now, let's go to the downsides of property, okay? We're going to leave this up for a bit so you guys can see it, be like, hey, this is the 4 different types of property you're going to probably encounter. Now, let's go to the downsides of property. So, pluses of property, okay? It is real, okay? Like, you can see it, okay? It does hold its capital value very well. You can get income from it via rent, etc. It is easy to get a loan against it because it's a secure asset. So you got some security as well. If you want to get a loan, you can use that property for it. It is doable to do so. If used for investment in some countries, it can be used to It can be used as a tax deduction for the loan interest. Okay. Yeah, that's probably most of the pluses I can see in property at the moment. Okay. Negatives. It's illiquid. Okay. Try selling a property within 5 days. You can't do it. Okay. 5%. It usually takes like months to sell a property. So if you need something done within like 2 weeks, something like that, property is very liquid. The yield is generally lower than shares, and that can be an issue as well with liquidity because you already got that combined as well. You have to manage it, okay, or pay someone to manage it. You can't let your property sit there and it does its own thing. You have to manage it, making sure tenants are there, paying it, make sure its property's being, kept well and stuff like that. You can either get a property manager to do it or you can do it yourself. Um, interest rates. Interest rates rising can be an issue with property, especially if you got a loan against it. It is also risky as well. Like this property is quite risky, as as it can be volatile depending on location, interest rate, economy, etc. So it is risky. Also, as well as room for capital growth, we've got to put that in the pluses area. But you can see there is like, there's some pluses and negatives property as well. The reason why people invest in shares with property as well is this part, okay? Because if you invest in a property share, it is suddenly liquid, okay? Because generally most shares are T+2 in Australia, that is, or T+2. So you get 2 days and you have the money. Now, as you guys are up to probably the 10th minute or 11th minute of the episode, just be aware that none of this is personal advice whatsoever or anything like that, okay? This is just a discussion of what the assets are and their pros and cons. Now, I did forget last week to, the mortgages. We talked about mortgages. Why it's a pseudo-investment? Well, mortgages is a pseudo-investment. So, your own mortgage. Because let's just say your own mortgage is 5% and you put $100 in that, okay? And your mortgage is, so what you've saved there is that you've saved $5, okay? By putting that $100 in your mortgage per year. And that is 5% return. Now, let's just say you work a job for 80 grand. Let's just say your tax rate's 40% for, just a thing. To earn an extra 5% on your portfolio and your tax rate is 40%, you actually have to earn, you've got to get back down to that, dollar again. You actually have to earn about probably $10, okay? $10 to get that return of 5% net. So that's why mortgages can be a pseudo investment. So you put, let's say, $500 into your offset account at let's just say a 5% interest rate. You've got a 5% return regardless, and you have to get a gross 10% return to try and in your income side to get that. So basically you have to earn about $200, okay, roughly $200 to get the same amount of return of putting $100 in your offset account. So you can see why mortgages can be a pseudo investment, and a very, very good pseudo investment, because you are decreasing your expenses, which doesn't increase the income that you generate, okay? So that's why a home mortgage can be good. Now, get obviously financial advice. If it's only just a normal home mortgage, this isn't anything to use a business for. If you're lending it, if you're using property for business, stuff like that, get a financial advisor, get an accountant. Okay, they know your situation more than I do, and it's a lot better for you, a lot less stress for you, a lot less stress for me. Just do it. Take the dive. Call up an advisor. Have a meeting. I know they charge, but they're going to give you good advice in the end. And generally what they charge is going to be a lot less than what they save you. I know I'm a bit biased because I'm a financial advisor, but from stuff I've charged people, stuff like that, it's always been at least, 10% of what they've saved overall. But anyways, we digress. And that, like I say right now, after that, that's pretty much all to do with property. So we've got the positives, we've got all the different types of properties, we've got the negatives as well. And that is property as investment, guys. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe. And I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely day. Something to leave you guys a bit of note of before, we clock out is, with domestic and international equities, why are those two asset classes separate? So get back to me on that one for tomorrow's episode, or even put it in the comments below. If you know why they're separate, just put one reason, put one point in the comments. Anyways, guys, see you guys later. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace out.